Okay, so book club. This week's episode is our book club episode with Cathy and Kirsten, and we read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I think we had a nice, sweet, cute conversation about it. I love this book. It's one of my favorite books. I could read it over and over again. I have read it over and over again. If you read along, I hope you enjoyed it. If you read it for the first time, I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't want to read it, you can always watch the PBS miniseries, which is, I think, 6 episodes, about an hour each. It's fantastic, and it's almost verbatim the book. I mean, they leave very little out of that miniseries. So if you don't want to read the book, you can watch that. I listened to it on audiobook as well, and it was wonderful. So lots of ways to get that content if you want it. Next book club or book club for next time. Oh, I closed my notebook. Dang it. It's called I'm Just Happy to Be Here. It is a memoir. I'm Just Happy to Be Here. So if you want to join us for that, please do. We'll be book clubbing that in June sometime. Thank you for coming back every week. Thank you for all your emails. Thank you for your podcast episode suggestions. I always write them down and I try to work on them. You know, I like to talk to people that I know about stuff. Not that I'm not open to talking to people I don't know, but sometimes it's hard to find someone who knows something about the subject matter you suggest, but please don't stop suggesting. I'll come across them at some point. But anyway, I hope you enjoy this week's episode, Book Club, Pride and Prejudice. Thanks for joining us. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good.
Yeah.
Are you awake? Like, what time zone are you in?
I don't know. Pacific, I guess. Hold on. My chair is swiveling sideways. You know, our good friend Sandy gave me some good advice about international travel. She said to sleep on your flight when you should be asleep in your destination. So if you're flying when you should be awake, you should not sleep, even if you're tired. And then that way, when you land, you are on your way to being in that time zone. So most of my flight, I should have been awake. So I didn't sleep a lot on my flight. But that meant I went to bed at like 10:30 last night. So, and slept until Mona started barking at 4. But if Mona had not screwed the pooch, I would have been fine. Mona, something's going on with Mona. I'm actually going to take her to the vet. I'm a little concerned. You know, she's been in heart failure for a year now, I guess. And I think we've moved into a different phase. She's kind of panting all night and she's going, and then she'll start barking. And she doesn't want to be left alone. So she follows somebody from room to room to room and just barks at them until they pet her. And either she's gone full on into dementia or this heart problem is causing her a lot of pain. I mean, he told me it would happen, but I think we may have moved to phase 2, which was not good. I mean, Georgia told me when I was gone that she'd been barking constantly, but I didn't really understand it till I got back. So I think she's hurting.
That's too bad. Poor girl.
Yeah, no, I felt really bad. And I felt bad for being upset with her because I was so tired. I was like, could you just wait till tomorrow? Can we start this at 6? Why 4 a.m.? And Georgia told me she's been doing it every day at 4 a.m. So, and the heart condition usually gets worse at night. So well. I got rave reviews about your composter Girl Scout meeting. Isla said that was super fun.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, she loved it. Our composter is right in front of my kitchen sink.
My daughter has not remembered to even look at it since our last meeting. So maybe someone else didn't have the same impression.
Oh, really?
I mean, they liked it. I think it was fun, you know.
I have no sense of these Zoom meetings. What's fun, what's relevant, what's useful. Like I've just lost all sense.
I hear you. Yeah. I hear you.
Well, I think anything with their hands, you know,
yep,
is good.
Well, she said it was really, really fun. It was a fun meeting and she liked it and she's been putting scraps in her composter.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes. So,
great. I've been watering it every day, but I'm the one watering it. So
Yeah, she has too. It's wet. So I'm assuming she's been watering it.
Oh, nice.
Somebody has. So somebody's doing their Girl Scouts, huh?
Gee,
Somebody.
That's impressive.
Somebody, right? What's been happening since I've been gone?
What's been happening indeed? I don't know. Life has been trucking along,
Nothing special?
Nothing special. I got my second shot. My son got a second shot. My son turned 17. I mean, life is moving on. Things are going.
I forgot. May 10th, right?
Yeah.
I totally forgot.
The ever living hell is up with that. I'm having some serious issues with it. I'm just saying.
Are you?
Not okay with 17. He's like almost a man, which is weird.
He can be drafted next year.
He can be drafted. Yeah.
That's exactly what Cathy wanted to hear. Thank you. Thank you for your feedback.
Welcome back.
Yeah,
Welcome back. Yeah, it is crazy. I'm right behind you. I mean, June 7th.
We're just in like a couple weeks. Yeah.
17. Yeah. It's, I feel like we're in our last year. And
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Me neither. I'd like to rewind about 4 years and just repeat. Because really, teenage years have been challenging, but they've also been really fun because we've been able to kind of relate similarly, not the same.
It's a very different kind of challenging than when they're little. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's been really fun for the most part.
Yeah.
And Georgia's my friend. I mean, not that I'm not her parent and that I'm not the,
right.
adult figure in the house, but she and I have a good friendship also, which I'm really grateful for. And I think I'm going to super miss it. I'll be stuck with Isla. My doppelganger. And we'll just butt heads for 2 more years. Not really. She and I have actually been getting along great since the pandemic. I think the pandemic did a lot of positive for Isla and negative, but a little bit of both. A little bit of both. So funny. We read The Wife Upstairs for a book club book. And Sandy's daughter, Kylie, had to read Jane Eyre for school. And she loved it. She kept, because I told her it's one of my favorite books. So she kept calling me, telling me what was going on in the book and, saying, I think for sure that she's going to end up with, St. John. She's definitely going to end up with St. John and she'll be fine. She'll be happy. And then of course she ends up with Mr. Rochester. And she calls me and goes, I can't believe they got back together. It was amazing. And just went on and on about this book. And so she, of course, found The Wife Upstairs and sent me a picture and was super excited. And I was like, don't bother. Steer clear. It is not the same. She was so disappointed. She wanted to read it with me and discuss with me as a book club. And I was like, oh, girlfriend, I'm so sorry. Maybe we should move on to like Far from the Madding Crowd or something. I don't know.
You're like, listen, we got a podcast that covers that. Don't waste your time. Just listen to the podcast.
Exactly. But it was really cute. It was really cute.
That's funny.
That's great.
I think she wants to book club with me and her mom and with Georgia. And I'm thinking, how in the world am I going to do 2 book clubs? I can't possibly do 2. But what a fun book club. I mean, Georgia and Kylie are avid readers. And I think Sandy likes to read. I don't know if she reads. I don't know if I'd call her an avid reader, but I know she enjoys reading a good book. So maybe I'll have 2 book club podcasts. Because in my spare time. I mean, audiobooks are like a godsend, aren't they?
Yeah,
they are. We could take a month off of our book club and you could do a book club with them so that you're not overrun with books and book clubs. And
that's not a bad idea.
There you go.
Maybe I'll think about that. I got to find a good book for us to read with Kylie and Sandy and Georgia. We'll see. Anyway, we are talking about
Pride and
Prejudice. Well, I want to talk about that on a totally different podcast. I actually was thinking about that and I was like, you know what? I should do what I did with the Vietnam podcast and talk about Vietnam in one podcast. I have a lot to say about Serbia and about my experience there. And I felt like if we talked about that on this podcast, we would never get to the book. I literally have a lot to say about Serbia.
Got it.
So we'll push pause on Serbia and circle back and do another podcast on that. one subject, which is a good idea. I'm going to write it down, actually. I thought about it while I was going to the bathroom 2 seconds ago. I was like, maybe I should not, because it's just going to be all we talk about. But I'm happy to tell you about my trip, but I don't want to tell you because then it ruins the podcast.
You don't have to tell us.
Anyway, I'll probably do that one with Sandy since she's traveled so freaking much.
Yeah.
But anyway, Pride and Prejudice. What did you think?
Well, I think I realized that I had already read it.
Yeah, me too. I was just going to say, it all came back to me once I started reading. I was like, oh, I do remember this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, love it. I mean, love it. It's such a classic. And you realize too, so many books and movies are based on it. Like, especially, it just reminded me of Bridget Jones' Diary when that came out. I loved the books and then I loved the movies, and that's 100% based on Pride and Prejudice.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is a good romantic. I don't know if it's a comedy. I guess it is a romantic comedy somewhat, but
parts of it are just so silly. Like when you think about it, like it's just every part of it is just so ludicrous. It's fun, but I don't know. It's very silly, I think.
And then it's also so crazy, like such a sign of the times that their family could potentially be ruined because the one sister runs away with the guy. And you're like, oh, honey.
Yes.
Like,
right?
I mean,
the times do change.
It's ludicrous for today, but I think it's really cool to see that window into what life used to be like. I think I love this book. I've read it. This is probably the 4th or 5th time I've read this book. And I have to say the PBS series is almost verbatim the book, like almost verbatim. So if you don't want to read the book, you could watch the PBS 5-episode Colin Firth.
Yes, it's 6 episodes, about 1 hour each, or 52 minutes each. I was going to watch that in preparation for this, but I ended up watching the Joe Wright movie with Keira Knightley, which is not verbatim the book. It's quite a departure from the book, but it's like quite a departure. It's not like a different book. It's still the story. It's just a condensed version. And then also in the movie version, Donald Sutherland plays the dad, and he's like weepy all the time, and he's just like, oh, Lizzie, and like on the verge of tears. And I was like, I don't remember the dad this way at all.
No, but the PBS version is actually how I kind of imagined these people to be. And then I read the book before I saw the PBS series, and I was like, oh my God, they just downloaded my brain. It's just so beautifully done in a way that it's a real, true kind of replication of her art. I think what's interesting about reading, what I was thinking about when I was reading this book was 2 things. One I should get to probably later, but I love the silliness. I love the glimpse into another time, which is a time that predates our time, but some of it still stands. There's some silly male-female protocol that still happens today where you go, I can't believe this is still here. I mean, this is ridiculous. And some of the personalities are so universal. And, there's always someone who has a silly, ridiculous mom who talks too much and is inappropriate and embarrasses their kids. There's always someone who's so stuffy who you misjudge and you think is an asshole. When you really get to know them, they're really nice and really good person. Like all those themes are so universal and can be applied today. I think that's why her books have stayed relevant, because those relationships are universal. The 2 sisters who get along, who have 3 other sisters they don't relate to. I'm sure that's something that people can relate to in real life. And, the first time I read this book, I might have been a bit more naive, because the first time I read this book, I was like, How are they going to get back together? Oh my God, she ended up with him. How did that happen? How are they going to fix it? Like I kept not being able to figure out how they were going to get it done. And part of it was because I didn't understand the times, like the era and the propriety that had to happen for things to be broken and for things to be fixed. So, the second time and third time and fourth time I read the book, I was like, yeah, this seems a bit ridiculous. But the very first time I read it, it didn't. I kept reading the book. It was like a page turner where I kept going, how in the world are they getting out of this one? Like, I know these two people are supposed to end up together, but they're so far apart. How do they fix it? And she just did. And it worked, right? And I believed it all, which I thought was really cool. Did any of you have that this time around or the first time around? Or is it just me?
I have to say, when I read it this time, I was thinking of you, Leanne, because I knew that this was your favorite book or one of your favorite books of all time. And I found it really charming, like sort of like if when you read one of your kids, like if your daughter says, oh, I love this book, and you read it and you're getting a window into their mind. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was reading it as a window into your mind. And I was like, wow, it's just so fascinating to me because you're such a hands-on, defiantly not a girly girl. Like you're like, contractor, build things, like, get shit done. And it's kind of a girly girl book in a lot of ways. Like, it's romance. And so I just found that really charming, that I was like, oh, shows such a sweet side of Leanne.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah, that's all I was thinking about reading it.
Well, I am a romantic, I think. I am. I'm a pragmatic romantic, maybe. But I am kind of a romantic. And, you get in the rat race of life and you kind of forget to be that way sometimes. You just kind of goes to the wayside. I mean, I've never been like Romeo romance, but I think what connects me to this book personally is that I relate to Lizzie. I was never one to suffer fools lightly, and I was always one to make a quick judgment based on someone's behavior as to whether or not I would be in love with that person. I was always in a relationship and out of it very quickly because I was like, nope, that's not going to work. Nope, that's not going to work. And I think she's very much that way. No way, Mr. Collins. No way. And I was very much...
Hard pass on Mr. Collins. Ooh.
Hard pass. I was no part of me that was like Charlotte, what's her name, down the street. No way. Yeah. I was definitely Lizzie. So I think I really connected to that character. And I wonder too, sometimes, I read this book before I met Bert. But I wonder too sometimes, not that Bert is Mr. Darcy, because clearly there's a lot about Bert that's not very Mr. Darcy.
Reserved with his emotions and with his demeanor.
No. Aloof. Let's see, polished. No.
Wondering what he's thinking.
No.
No, I pretty much...
No, not so much. But there is a part of Bert that's very kind of like, he has a lot of integrity in a lot of ways, which is part of the reason we're together, is that we both really value kind of the same kind of ethics and morals and integrity. So even though he's not Mr. Darcy, I think there's part of Mr. Darcy that is Bert, or Bert is a little bit Mr. Darcy, just a little bit. But yeah, I read this book before I met Bert, and I don't think I was looking for a Mr. Darcy exactly per se, but I definitely was looking for someone whose morals and ethics I could respect. And I think by the end of the book, you really do find out that he is a very good person with excellent morals, and that's really sweet. You said that was a window into me. Don't tell anybody. It's a secret. I'm a softie. I'm like Isla. I mean, someone said to me something about Isla liking boys. And I was like, I don't know if she liked boys, but let me tell you this. She watched Bridget Jones' Diary hiding behind a chair because she couldn't fully process the romance that was happening. She was lying on the ground with her head peeking out like this around the chair like this because she couldn't stand herself. She was shipping everybody constantly. I shipped them. I shipped them. I shipped them. And she couldn't process the romance of it. She just, if you watch Jane Eyre, she did the same thing. And that's kind of a much darker movie, but you want them to end up together in the end, and she just can't help it. She can't handle it. So I guess that's a glimpse into her little brain too.
That's so sweet.
It's pretty cute. Anything specific about the book that you liked or didn't like? Any specific scene or?
One of the things that took me this time, and I like to read a lot of these like books that are set in like an olden period. Mm-hmm. But part of what kept striking me was just the time frame in which all of this happened. Like that is so different than today. They're like, oh, he's not coming back for the winter. So you don't see someone for 6 months and that's like perfectly normal. Or we're going to go visit for 6 weeks. You're like, you don't go visit people for 6 weeks.
God forbid.
Right? Like, I don't know why that struck me much more so like as such a discrepancy compared to today's world. Like that doesn't happen. Everything. You're texting. All of this is immediate. You don't wait for the post to come and find out the letter. Like, and then dad didn't send one. I don't know what's happening. Like, it's so, I don't know. It's just really fascinating. And it would be really frustrating to be placed in that world today.
Yeah, and that's so interesting because the timeline is so stretched out in that one sense. But then also when it comes to like meeting Mr. Bingley, Jane and Mr. Bingley, it's like, the mother is like, I expect them to be married in 3 months' time. And it's like, they just met. Like,
and they're still at the first ball. Yeah.
They danced twice, sure. But
well, like Charlotte Lucas says, she should leave him with no doubt of her feelings if she wants to secure him. And then Liz says, but even before she knows his character or who he is, she should make him believe he's in love with her. And Charlotte says, well, of course, how else is she going to make sure she secures him? It's like a business transaction.
Yeah.
All of it. And how I guess the system worked where all of these 5 sisters are going to be just kind of out without a place to live when their dad dies is bizarre too. So there's so much pressure to get married to a wealthy person to take care of your whole family. I mean, how much would that suck for the guy? I mean, would you want Lydia at your house every day? Pass. No thanks for Lydia and Kitty. They can stay home. I'm not sure I'd want Mary there either. But,
or mom.
Or mom.
Yeah, but right? You know what? Mom is one who, upon this reading, as a mom, like I think the last time I read it, I was not a mom. And mom was just like so silly and so embarrassing and just so fixated on getting her daughters all married off. It's so gross. But then thinking about it in that time frame now as a mom, you're like, oh my God, she just wants her kids to survive. Like, she just wants to make sure they have a roof over their heads. They literally don't end up prostitutes in the big city or something, because they're going to be destitute when Mr. Collins takes over the house, when the father dies. And so that was interesting. I mean, she still is silly and meddling and, and all of those things. But like, I think this, as an older adult, I saw it more from, just a pragmatic point of view, that she's like, oh dear God, I've got to make sure my kids are going to be okay when my husband dies.
Totally. Totally. There's a lot of it. I mean, how creepy is Mr. Collins? Every time he shows up, I shudder. He's just gross. And then the guy, I apologize, whoever really played him in this PBS series. Oh my God. They cast him perfectly. If you haven't seen this, he has like a comb over. And he creeps me out. So I didn't like him when I read the book the first time. And then when I saw him in that series, I was like, oh my God, he is so creepy. But one of my favorite I have several chunks of the book that's just such good writing. And one of it is when he proposes to her and she refuses him. And then he says, I understand that this is normal for women to refuse me, so I'll just be patient. And she's like, no, no, no. I'm saying no. And he goes, ah, ha, 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 ha. I get it. You're just increasing my like passion by suspense. And she's like, no, 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 no. Let me one more time. As I'm saying no. And he just can't that one moment in the book I love. And then when, she goes to her dad and the way Jane Austen writes is so humorous, I think, in that she says, the dad says, you're faced with a terrible choice. From this day forward, you have to be a stranger to one of your parents. So if you marry Mr. Collins, if you don't marry Mr. Collins, your mother will never speak to you again. If you do, I will never speak to you again.
Oh,
and then the
I
mom
love
just falls
that.
apart.
Oh.
It's so well written and the language is so great and it's just so delicious. The payoff is amazing. He's always Mr. I just forgot their name. Mr.
Bennett?
Yes, duh. Mr. Bennett. Sorry, jet lag. Mr. Bennett is just always getting Mrs. Bennett's goat constantly in this whole. I just think the characters are so well defined. They're 5 very distinct, different sisters, and all the adults are so well defined in the book and just juicy. I mean, Lady Catherine de Bourgh could not have been a juicier character. And then when she came, that was another scene that was one of my favorites always, is when she came to confront.
Yeah, when Lizzie stands up to her and says, no, I'm not going to make any promises to you. Oh, that's so good.
It is. And I imagine back in that time period, that was so inappropriate and obstinate and outspoken. And what a voice Jane Austen gave to the women of her time to be able to vicariously live through this free-spirited, stubborn, strong-willed, opinionated, ethical young lady that's Elizabeth Bennet. And I think about that with both of those scenes, is how liberating that must have felt to be a woman in that era, to read those 2 scenes in particular and to say, fuck yeah, even though they wouldn't have said, fuck yeah. I mean, those were awesome. And just the language is so perfect. Like, I don't know what you would change about one word in the whole book. It's just perfectly, there's no waste, I don't think. There may be a waste of like, we're going here again or we're going there again. But as far as like reading the book for dialogue and for what's happening, I never felt like, okay, come on, I understand. Let's get through this.
No, actually, I thought when I was reading it this time, for a second, I checked out the copy. I was like, is this an abridged version? Because it is so like straight to the point. I was kind of like, I wonder if this is abridged. I was like, no, it's not. It's just the book.
There's no fat on the bone. It's all meat, I found. Every time I read it, I feel that way. I love her language. Like the first line of the book is so great. Why are you laughing,
I agree.
Kathy?
Yeah. Because it's one of the best
very
lines.
famous.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a large fortune must be in want of a wife. I mean, now you know what the whole book is about.
Yeah. And it's a strong statement. And I mean, at the time, it probably was just a universally acknowledged statement. And then reading it now, it's such a different take on it that you're like, oh, really?
Right?
Yeah.
But is it that different?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure that it is all that different.
I don't think it is. I think they think any man that has fame and fortune must be looking for some kind of wife, token wife or something.
Or some kind of wife is definitely looking for him.
That's the truth.
Yeah, some kind of wife is looking for him. But I feel like now these like young rich guys play the field a lot longer.
But really what she's saying is the impression of the neighborhood is he must be in want of a wife. So I don't know how different that is. I mean, everybody wants Brad Pitt to be married to somebody fantastic. It's such a fairy tale.
Well, gosh, even Bill Gates, like Bill Gates and Melinda just announced that they're getting divorced. And like, all over social media, people are like, oh, interesting. Bill Gates is single, or like Melinda. Hey, Melinda, I'm available.
Right. Must be in want of a wife.
Yeah.
So still
only
so
if you're
universal.
wealthy, you must be in want.
Only if you're wealthy.
If you're poor, no one cares.
Right?
That's so terrible.
Yes, very terrible. If you're poor, they're like, makes sense. Go figure. I know, I think all the time, if anything happened to me, Bert would have women lined up for him. And I think 15 years ago, you should have been here. It was not the same, not the same. There was another line in here that I really liked. It's later in the book. It says, so let me see what the context is. Elizabeth, I guess they're talking about Mr. Bennett's talking about Darcy at some point. And she wrote, she blushed, meaning Elizabeth, and Jane blushed, but the cheeks of the two who caused their confusion suffered no variation of color. And I thought, what a wonderful way to describe that moment. Two people were embarrassed, but the other two people didn't give a shit. But she didn't say that. She said the cheeks of the two who caused their confusion suffered no variation of color. That's just so great. Why are you laughing at me, Cathy? You don't think that's
funny? No, it's great. It is great. But it's just funny. Like, no one would ever speak that way today. People would be like, yeah, they didn't give a shit. You know?
I know, but I like reading that. I
get it.
I like that language. I feel like we've become so casual as a people that it's really kind of a shame. I mean, I think there's parts of the casualness that's really positive, right? It's really great to be able to just speak freely and speak your mind. But, you know, I won't talk about this in depth much, but one thing I noticed in Serbia is that everyone was dressed in clothes that had been pressed. Even if it was a t-shirt, there was no sloppiness. Everyone looked really put together. Even people that you knew probably weren't put together looked really put together. And part of me went, I kind of miss that in LA. I miss that in myself. I'm the first person to throw on a pair of sweatpants and a sloppy t-shirt and go to Trader Joe's. And I just walked around the city going, these people hold themselves very differently and they walk very differently. And I don't know. I guess I was reading this book while I was in Serbia. And for some reason, I think those two ideas came together for me where I went, what a shame that we don't have some of that formality, even though, you know, wearing a nice pair of slacks is not particularly formal, but it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I agree with you, but I also, to play devil's advocate, it reminds me of a part in the book when Bingley's sisters Lizzie goes to when Jane is at Bingley's, she's ill and which is also just so funny. She goes to visit and then she gets a cold and then
and can't come home.
Suddenly living there, being taken care of. It's so funny, the things that are considered propriety versus now. I mean, can you imagine if Georgia is at her boyfriend's house and then gets a cold and oh, she's just going to live in the guest room for the next week or so. It's just so crazy. No. But then Lizzie goes to check up on her and she walks there. And then Bingley's sister is like, ugh. She's like, did you walk here? And she's like, yes, I enjoy a walk. And then, when she leaves the room, she's like, did you see the hem of her skirt is dirt in it? Has she no propriety? And it's just oh, wow. I don't know. It's just the flip side. That's just what it made me think of when you're talking about dressing up, that it's then if everybody is dressed up, then there's still judgment coming in somewhere.
Right. That makes sense. There's judgment everywhere, right?
Yeah,
all the time.
Always judgment.
Yeah, that was something I noticed when I was in Serbia. I was like, wow, everybody here is pressed. almost even the one or two homeless people I saw looked more put together than I did in some ways. I marked something else. I did not travel with a highlighter, which I really regretted, but I marked this other one for something too. But anyway, yeah, all the ridiculousness with Mr. Wickham that was going on with, them hiding in London, not being married and ruining the family and the kvetching that was happening with Mrs. Bennet is taken to her room. So many histrionics. I'm glad we don't have to deal with that these days, right?
Why? Yeah.
Yeah.
I read something about when I was looking into doing my research, like as the self-appointed nerd of the group. The first title for this was First Impressions, and it made me think about titles and how just how important it is to have like a snazzy title. Like Pride and Prejudice is just, I just can't imagine it being called First Impressions. It's like, it's, and of course it is a book about first impressions, but it's really, Pride and Prejudice goes deeper on what those first impressions were. And it's just the alliteration, and it's, there's stronger words than first impressions. And you just wonder, would it have been as popular if it were called First Impressions? And it just made me think about titles in general. And there were two books that I read this fall, two memoirs. One was Hillbilly Elegy, which became a movie. I haven't seen the movie version. But I've got to be honest, I was not a great fan of the book. I thought it was okay, but I didn't think that it was really that well written. It wasn't as dynamic as I thought it could have been. And then there was another book, which, oh my God, I think it's called Heartland, maybe, by Sarah something. Oh, I should have gotten my facts straight before bringing this up. I didn't think about it until now, but a woman, and it's also about the same group of people that he dealt with in Hillbilly Elegy. And I thought it was so much more interesting, better written. But again, like I guess this proves my point. The title sort of escapes me because it was sort of like Heartland or something that was a little bit more bland. Hillbilly Elegy, it's like you hear hillbilly and you're like, oh, what's that about? That sounds like spicy. That sounds like dramatic. And I swear he got a book deal based on that title. Like, I think that title is not that he didn't deserve a book. I don't mean that. I think it was well done. I just don't think that it was, when I see that it's like a bestseller and that it went on to have a movie, I was like, really? Oh, I didn't think it was that dynamic. But the title is so dynamic that it made me read it.
It sold it, right?
Yeah.
It sold it. I read a Hillbilly Elegy. I have not read Heartland. I will have to read that. I loved Hillbilly Elegy only because I related to so much of what he talked about. But now that you say that, I agree with you. It wasn't quite as dynamic as it could have been, maybe.
I guess I just thought that he told more than showed, that there were so many, like the grandmother is such a dynamic character.
Yes.
And I wanted scenes with her. And so I can see how I haven't seen the movie. Glenn Close plays the grandma. I'm sure it's very dynamic as scenes, but the book itself, it was like, yeah, she was disappointed, so she did whatever, instead of like showing a scene where she's like, fuck this shit, and really getting into it. He just sort of, it was a very remote telling to me. And the other one is a woman writing. It's written in second person, so she's talking to a you that doesn't exist. The whole book is like a letter to her not unborn, but never will be child, because she's decided she's never going to have children because she sees the way that children are abused in poverty, and how poverty is so horrible for them, how inescapable it is when you're of this class in this place where people are having a lot of babies as teenagers and just all of the dysfunction that comes with that. And so she vows to never have a baby. And so it's told like, you would be I would be doing such and such. And it was just such a dynamic way of telling that it really made you think, oh, wow, her entire life is changed based on just being born poor. Even though she gets an education, she's this amazing writer, she has made this dramatic life decision based on all the dysfunction that she grew up in. And anyway, I'm sorry, I've just derailed the conversation into two different books.
I want to read that book now. That sounds like a great book. If you hadn't already read it, we could read it for our next book club. And if we knew the title of it, because
I'll look it up. I'll text you.
I would love to read that book. That sounds really great. I saw Hillbilly Elegy, the movie. I was really looking forward to it, and I was really disappointed. Glenn Close was amazing in the movie, but I was like, meh, okay. I wasn't really my bag, that movie. But speaking of my bags, this is totally off topic, but have either of you watched Yellowstone?
No, but I hear it's great.
Yeah, I heard it was good.
It's insane. Okay, I had 3 days quarantine when I landed in Serbia, and I watched all 3 seasons. I could not stop watching it. It is so good. I want you guys to watch that so I can talk to somebody about it. I don't know anybody who's seen it, and I'm like, I need to talk to somebody.
Are we going to podcast about Yellowstone?
I could totally do that. I mean, it is like Dallas.
Oh, God.
It is like Dallas meets The Sopranos. It's really, really good. And it's beautifully shot. The actors are amazing and they're perfectly cast. And there were some episodes where I was literally hiding under my covers because I couldn't watch what was happening.
Okay, Isla.
I was, right? We are related.
I know where she gets it from.
I mean, I was watching like this. Oh my God, 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 oh my God. I couldn't. It's very violent. It has a little bit of sex, but not really as much sex as just sheer violence and just corruption. Like every person, it's like Dallas. Every person is fucked up. There's not one normal person in this whole show. Not one person is like, oh, that's a really good guy. No, the really good guy actually murders everybody. Like my favorite person has murdered like 15 people. But he actually is a really good guy. He just keeps murdering people. It's so well done. And I posted about it, and then I found out like 5 million people watch each episode. It gets like 5 million downloads per episode. That's huge.
Is it Netflix?
I got it on iTunes, but I had to buy the season. So it's like $20 for the season. I think that it's on Paramount Plus.
Oh, got it.
Or something else like that. What are you laughing at?
I'm just laughing because sorry, what was that, Halston?
Paramount.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm laughing because I just literally had a conversation with my kids yesterday we were talking about John Ritter, the actor, and about Three's Company. And I said to Richard, like, did you watch Three's Company? I'm like, of course you did. Like, everybody, even if you didn't watch it, you were aware of it because there were only 3 channels back then. And I said something like to the kids, well, in our day, and Vivian's like, oh, it's not going to be good when she says it in our day. And I'm like, oh my God, I've officially become an old person who's talking about, well, in my day, there were only 3 channels. But it is so different now that it's like, with so many different platforms. I mean, there are platforms that somebody was talking about, like Tubi or something. And I thought it was like a Saturday Night Live invented network, like a joke network.
Yeah.
It just sounded so crazy. And it was like, oh no, that's a network. And there's just like a million platforms. So you can't possibly keep up on everything. There's no way. It's like, even back in the day, if you didn't, like, I never watched a single episode of Dallas.
What?
But I could tell you a whole bunch of the characters and their storylines just from like being in the, picking up
Zeitgeist.
the newspaper.
Yeah.
Exactly. You just absorb it. And, the same thing, like if somebody wasn't into sitcoms, they would probably know about Mrs. Roper from Three's Company and Jack Tripper and Suzanne Summers, and all these, it's just such a different world. So anyway.
It is a different world. I was saying that same exact thing when I was talking to Bert's cousin, Andrew, who's quite a bit younger than me. He's not, I don't know how old Andrew is, probably his late 20s. So he definitely is part of the cable kid generation. And I was like, you don't understand with Dallas. I said the same thing. You had 3 options for a TV show or your local PBS station. So really 4. And there's nobody on the planet who didn't talk about who shot JR. When JR got shot, it was like the world stopped. I think that was one of the biggest, highest watched shows was the first day back after he got shot. Because everybody wanted to know who shot him, right? And of course, they drew it out for like 4 episodes, and you're like, "Are you kidding me? Who shot JR?" But my grandmother, there was T-shirts. Who shot JR? Everybody was all about that show, and I get really sad thinking we don't have anything like that because it created a community, right? It's kind of like going to church, except everybody was on ABC, CBS, or NBC. That's it. Everybody watched Johnny Carson. Everybody. Was there even any other late night options until Letterman came around? I don't think so. I think it was the Late Show, where they'd show a movie late at night against Johnny Carson. And Johnny Carson made or made people's careers and broke them, but that doesn't exist anymore either. It's really kind of sad because we can't all have a common conversation about one of the best shows that has ever been made, which is called Yellowstone, which neither of you have watched, nor anyone else I know. I keep looking. It's anybody. Talk to me about this show. And everybody keeps texting me like I posted about it on Instagram and people keep commenting. I can't believe you just found it.
Is it old?
Yeah, it's 3 seasons. Season 4 comes out in June.
Huh. Never even heard of it.
You've never even heard of it?
No, I mean, not until like fairly recently.
Yeah.
Certainly not like first or second season. That's for sure.
No. And Kevin Costner's awesome. Anything he does is pretty amazing. Yeah. He's awesome. Have you shown your kids Dances with Wolves?
I'm not sure if they've seen it or not. I think Max has watched it.
That's one I keep meaning to watch with my kids. It's
I don't remember.
On
my
list.
Kids have only recently become open to watching old movies.
Back in the day, back in your day movies.
I know. And like, I don't think of Dances with Wolves as an old movie. Like
Casablanca is an old movie.
Yeah. Like I famously made them watch Miracle on 34th Street when Christmas, they're really into Christmas movies. And I thought, oh, that's one that I've never seen before. It's a classic. A lot of people talk about watching that every year and it's black and white. So, there was that for these kids and they were just like, this is ridiculous. Like they just found it completely unwatchable. And afterwards, one of the kids, it was quite a few years ago and God, I'll have to dig up the quote of them, but it was like, they was talking about like, your old black and white movies from your day. And they were just, and I was like, it's from like the 30s, like it's from like before your grandparents were born. Like, this is an old movie. But they equate like the old movies, like the movies that I watched in the 80s, also
like
as
The Matrix,
old movies.
Like that, right?
Yeah.
Like
And
The
I'm
Matrix.
Like, there's like 55 years in between these movies, like
couple generations between them. I know I made a list of old movies that I wanted my kids to watch, and then someone gave us that poster. I think I've told you. What are you laughing at? What?
Just, oh my goodness, she's obviously listening in. And she said, oh, go to your notes section. You wrote down my quote about that. Oh my God.
Thanks, Camille. Would you like to be on camera? Come on
That
in.
is hilarious.
That is really funny.
That's funny.
She's clearly listening in. Is she leaning against the door?
Yeah, Camille, it's not in that section. Yeah, thanks for your feedback, though.
That's so funny.
All right, go ahead.
So I made a list of old movies I wanted the kids to watch, like Forrest Gump and Shawshank Redemption and, movies like that. And then we got this poster for Christmas that's like 100 movies, 100 must-watch movies. And we've been kind of clicking those off. But Dances with Wolves is not on that. There's several movies where I go, really? It's not on that?
We have the same poster. And there are some movies on there that I'm like, really? How did this get on here? Because I don't really care about this movie at all.
Oh, I'm dying to know what's on this list.
There's a lot of Stanley Kubrick. Yeah. It's very Stanley Kubrick heavy, where I'm like, do I really need to watch The Shining and A Clockwork Orange and Space Odyssey 2001 and Stanley Kubrick and Stanley Kubrick? Like, I'd rather it be, I get it. Stanley Kubrick's a great filmmaker. I completely agree that those movies are great, but if I never see A Clockwork Orange again, it will be too soon. That movie was disturbing. And I don't see, the cinematography of it and the styling of it was so very of the day that's pretty cool. But I don't really need to see a girl like gang raped again, ever. And her sweater cut open, and I don't need to see that. So if someone said, what's your top 100 movies? That would not be on it. And there's a lot of movies, I agree, on that poster where I'm like, what? And not even because I'm trying to watch with my family. It's clearly a male-driven top 100, I believe.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
There's no, I don't even think Bridget Jones' Diary's on there, and I think that's one of the best romantic comedies ever. But there are a lot. I don't think Dances with Wolves was on there. And I was like, how do you leave that movie out? It won so many Best Picture. I mean, so many. It won Best Picture, but it won so many awards, including Best Picture. I don't know. I'm very suspect of that poster. Very suspect. So I dog fight. No. So I've been trying to get Lily and Isla. Isla watched the 6-hour Pride and Prejudice marathon with me, and she thought it was one of the best things she's ever done in her life. She loved it so much. And she keeps wanting to do it with Lily and Dakota, but she's afraid they will not like it. So she's scared to suggest it on like a mega sleepover weekend.
Lily would love it.
I think Lily would love it too.
She would totally love it.
I'm going to have to encourage her to have a little, because that will be the only way Isla Kreischer will read Pride and Prejudice will be if she watches the PBS series. She may listen to the audiobook, but anyway, well, thank you for reading that book with me. I enjoyed it. Did you enjoy it this time around?
Yeah, it's always fun.
Yeah.
I forgot about it. Like, I haven't read it in decades, literally. So
yeah, me too.
It's always good to go back. And
yes, it is. It's good to revisit things. So for our next book club book, I have nothing. I was looking at, it's not that I have nothing. I was interested in this one book, and then I realized Reese Witherspoon is doing a book club with that book. And I was like, well, I don't want to do that, because not that I'm in any way competing with Reese Witherspoon, don't get me wrong, but I felt like we should, somebody else could get that content somewhere else. You know what I mean? So any suggestions?
I got a DM from a podcast listener who recommended a memoir called I'm Just Happy to Be Here. She said it's about addiction struggles, emotional intensity, but she's a brilliantly bitter writer. She thinks that we all might love it. So that's one recommendation. But I also had to mention, she also mentioned in this, the reason that she reached out was that, remember we read Maid?
Yes.
Which we weren't as much a fan of. Apparently it is now a Netflix series, and it was filming literally next door to her. The house next door had filming, cool. And she messaged me and said, you're never going to believe what's shooting next door to me.
That's crazy.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? So that's Sophia, a listener.
You know what's funny? I didn't enjoy that book, but that book has stuck with me a little bit. It's been one where I go, she made it. Like she made it to Montana.
Yeah.
I think about that one part of it is that she got out of her situation and she made it to where she really wanted to be. That's come back to me several times. So as much as I didn't think it was a great book, it stuck with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just happy to be here. And there's another one I saw. Let me look. I'm going to go on my phone really quick.
While you're on your phone, I agree that Maid has stuck with me. I've been sort of reconsidering my opinion of that book. I wonder if it just was, I wonder if the timing of it was off for us in some way. Because I've also thought about it and thought, wow, I just can't, I mean, I guess I can imagine because I've read the book, but we just live such different lives.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think at the time I thought it was very redundant and repetitive and a little whiny. But we had just, I think, recently read Miss Pat's book. I think it was hard to go from Miss Pat to that and have any kind of like, I think we were a little strongly opinionated about Miss Pat's book. Well, I can't find it. It's like, I think it's called like, Listen to What I Say. Let me see if I can find it. Something about what I say. And I thought that's interesting. Of course, it's not coming up. I'll find it as soon as we're done podcasting. But let's look up I'm Just Happy to Be Here. I'm just happy to be here. The book. Oh, shit. It gave me a T-shirt that says I'm just happy to be here. That's not what I was looking for. Any other suggestions? No.
I'm not chiming in because I have the loudest dogs in town right now. There's someone in our backyard and there's a lot of barking.
A memoir of renegade mothering. That's what it says.
I'm just happy to be here.
Mm-hmm. Says a refreshingly raw, contrasting perspective on the foolproof idea of motherhood. Tells the story of her finding her way home and then actually staying there. Drawing us into the wild, heartbreaking mind of the addict. She carries us from motherhood at 21 with a man she'd known 3 months to cubicles and whiskey-laden domesticity, from judging meth addicts in rehab to therapists who seemed to pull diagnosis out of a large, expensive hat. With warmth, wit, and searing BS detectors turned mostly toward herself, she invites us to laugh when we probably shouldn't and to rejoice at the unconventional redemption she finds in desperation and in a misfit mentor who forces her to see the truth of herself. I'd be into it. What about you?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, I'll send you a book. Do you like that I send you a book?
I love it.
It's always fun when it shows up. Yeah. Like I never really expected, and then it just shows up, and you're like, "Oh yay! I have a new book."
Okay, I'll send that book. We can read that one, of course. What else should we talk about, ladies? Anything else? It's only been an hour.
Wowzers! I mean, it's hard to talk about a book that like we all like, right?
It is hard to talk about a book that it's kind of a universal book, but I'm glad we read it. I'm glad we read it. And maybe I'll see if Lily and Isla want to. Oh, I know what we could do. Halston, can you come back on?
I want to watch the PBS miniseries. I've never seen it.
I have it on DVD.
Oh, nice.
And I have it. Yeah, it's really good.
Do we actually own a DVD player is the question.
There you are. So what'd you do this week?
I got double engaged.
Wait, what does that mean?
So on Christmas, Brooke proposed to me.
I remember.
Yes. So she, for the people that don't know, she woke me up on early Christmas morning and then took me on a scavenger hunt, which is how my mom used to give us presents when we were kids. And I always really liked doing that, and it was really fun. And then she made it a Forgetting Sarah Marshall themed scavenger hunt, which is like one of my favorite comedy movies. And And then the last clue was to this little box right here that says, "Will you marry me?" And then she got down on one knee and proposed to me. And then I said yes. And little did she know that after my grandma first met her, she gave me my great great grandmother's ring after the first time she met her. So she like had it with her at the restaurant we met at. And that was like 3.5 years ago. So I've had this ring at my dad's house in Oregon, and she had no idea. So after she proposed to me, I was in contact with my sister, and she was going to the jewelry place, and I wanted to get this ring reworked and made it like a little more modernized, and because it's like from the 1800s probably. I mean, my great great grandma, it's got to be in the 1800s. So we took the big stone out, and I put it right in the middle. And it's very special for Brooke because she loves family heirlooms, and like she's really big into family that way. So I had this ring waiting, and so I planned this trip to Oregon, finally see my family for the first time since the pandemic started. I've been dying. I've been so homesick. It's been brutal the last few months. And once that 2 weeks post-vaccination happened, I was like, going home. I got to see the baby, got to see the family. But I also planned a beach trip to Cannon Beach, which is this beautiful, beautiful beach, with this super iconic giant rock that's right off the shore. And I think it's been in a bunch of movies. You've probably seen pictures or something, but it was really cool. So we went to that beach trip, and I brought my family with me, and I made sure we had a nice camera there. And she had no idea. So we're going down the beach, we're scouting out locations, and like, it was so perfect because first of all, there was an 80% chance of rain, which we almost backed out on that trip. The beach is usually packed, and there's so many people there always. It's Mother's Day weekend, so I wasn't sure how that was going to look. And we get there, clear blue skies, nobody's around. So we scouted out locations near this giant rock to have this like epic background. And I found the perfect spot, and then we got the shot and got down on one knee, and I was like, I'm never going to be able to outdo your proposal, but I can't give you this ring without asking you first. And then I got down on one knee and said, "Will you marry me?"
Aww, congrats. That's
Yay.
exciting.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think Halston would like Pride and Prejudice too. He's a romantic.
He might be a Mr. Bingley.
I was, my mom and sister raised me on romantic movies and all that stuff. So I'm used to that more than, I saw Die Hard for the first time last year. So
Oh my God.
that's where I am on like the romantic comedies versus action movies.
That's pretty funny. Well, congratulations. Double engaged.
Yeah, I just thought that it was really cool, and I know that deep down, like, I think every girl wants to be proposed to, in a nice, thoughtful way. And so when she took that away from herself, even though she knows how special it is and how unique it is to propose to the guy, I think, she just didn't want it to be proposed to.
Of course.
So what better time to do it than in front of my family and the Pacific Northwest, which is where she's from as well. It was perfect. It was perfect. And now she's going to be in Washington for the next like 5 months, and I will be here, and she's got that sweet ring. And, we got a shot of it too, which we weren't really able to get when she proposed to me. She had a little, because it was so secretive, she had a little hidden camera set up on her laptop that was going, but it wasn't like a professional shot. And I think she really wanted to have like a nice Instagrammable moment, you know?
Mhm.
So
You got one.
we got it.
You got it. I saw it. It was great.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
I know. I'm so happy
So
for you guys.
exciting.
Yes, it is. When's the wedding? November?
We're actually not sure. I mean, pandemic is still going on, and a lot of weddings were pushed off for over a year. So there's just a lot of different factors going on right now with that. But we're really happy to stay engaged and just enjoy it for the time being, and save up. It's like less stressful if we can just kind of take our time with it and just really enjoy being engaged. And we were like, maybe we should push it even further and just try to go to Hawaii for our 5-year anniversary instead of like really penny pinching for the next year and a half. So, we're thinking about some things. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's exciting.
It is very exciting.
You have lots of options.
Lots
Yes,
of
you do.
options. Yes, definitely.
And plenty of time.
Yeah.
Lots of options, plenty of time. Take your time, enjoy it. I had a fast engagement, 2.5 months.
Wow.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
For certain, shotgun wedding.
Oh, yeah. Right.
It was a shotgun. And my uncle came with a shotgun. So we have an awesome picture of me and my dad and Bert and the preacher with a shotgun, where my dad has a shotgun.
That's awesome.
It is pretty awesome. I've got to find that picture. We used to have it framed and up in our living room. And then we thought, I think Georgia's going to figure out what this means. And we haven't really told her. And, I mean, she's not why we got married. He already had the ring and we were already going to get married anyway. But just the timing of it was such that, we got engaged in September and we got married in December. So I guess 3 months, September, October, November, December. Yeah, 3 months, 3-month engagement. I don't recommend it. It was very hard to plan a wedding in 3 months. It was very difficult.
I can't imagine. I mean, we've been engaged for like over 4 months now, almost 5. And I'm still like shocked about the proposal. I'm still like very fresh and like processing it even. Like I'm a guy who I never thought about my wedding. I never thought about getting engaged, and I was just starting to kind of get there in my head after kind of going through a brutal divorce with my parents, and I've been very like focused on my goals and my life, and until I met Brooke, I didn't think that there was going to be anyone else involved. And so to go from one, being against marriage and being against it completely, to actually like turning the corner on that and like really believing in her and us. And it's a lot to process for me. And I think you have said before, Leanne, that I was going to wait until my career was in a certain place and that I was comfortable enough to do that. And that's just kind of the person that I am. And I think that you're right. I was going to wait another 2 years. So that was my plan, because I did have the ring, and I don't know what timeline I was working off of, but she got in there and was like, you know what, I want this, so I'm going to shoot my shot. And like, I don't know, when she proposed to me, it was like so cool to feel that somebody loves me that much, that they would really put it all out there and go, hey, do you want to marry me? Like, we've been together for over 4 years at that point. And I think you should know. I think you should know at that point whether or not you're going to be together. So I have
it's a long time. 4 years is a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. I have no plans on breaking up with her.
You've both been vetted.
You've been vetted. Yeah.
4
thoroughly.
years, you've been vetted thoroughly. I think it's great. Thanks for sharing that story. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Super excited.
Congrats.
One last question, then let's wrap it up. What did you guys do for Mother's Day? That question's not for you, Halston. What'd you do? Don't all talk at once.
We went on a hike. My family we took on the 52 hike challenge this year. We're trying to do, so, it's one hike a week, which isn't a lot, except for it is if you have if you plan anything at all, or kids have projects or homework to do on the weekend, or there's weather, all of a sudden it's we don't have to worry about rain, obviously, but we're sort of trying to plan ahead to the summer when they're probably going to be a bunch of weeks where we don't want to hike in 100-degree weather.
Right.
So we went on a nice hike to Owl Trail in La Cañada. It was very pretty, and a lot
That's
of eating.
Nice Mother's Day. What about you, Kath?
It was really relaxing. We had breakfast on the beach. It was really overcast and chilly, but there was not many people there. It was just really relaxing. Both kids were in really good moods. I was worried because Max is not a morning person, but he knew that this is what we were doing. So, and we just played cards on the beach and just hung out for a while. And then it was just a relaxing day. I got to read my book. And then, Stephen made Lenore and I a fantastic dinner. It was just relaxing. It was fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
So,
well, I was in Serbia and I woke up with Bert and I was like, so today's Mother's Day. And he went, oh yeah. So anyway, we're going to be doing blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay. And then a little bit later, someone else said, so happy Mother's Day, Leanne. And he went, oh, that's what you were saying. Oh, today's Mother's Day. And I was like, yeah, today's Mother's Day, you ninny. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I just didn't think about it. It just didn't hit me the right way. So my kids usually make me breakfast in bed for Mother's Day. I've asked for a do-over. This is the first Mother's Day I haven't been with my kids. And I was like, I'll have a do-over next Sunday. I'll have breakfast in bed. So I'll have mine next week. That's all they ever do for me, breakfast in bed, and then I'm on my own for the rest of the day. I still do dishes and laundry and whatever, but at least I get breakfast in bed. I get the Winston Churchill. That's what we're calling that now, the Winston Churchill, breakfast in bed. Yeah. Well, thanks for reading. So our next book club book, I'm Just Happy to Be Here, and I'll send you a copy. Thanks for always having suggested, Kirsten. You always have my back. Right. Cathy just is dead weight. We just drag her.
I know.
Just kidding.
It's so true.
It's not true at all. Not at all.
Oh, boy.
But thank you, ladies. So this is May. So sometime in June.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm gone for 3 weeks in June. So we may have to do it early in June, just so you know. I have to bank. We're going to Montana. And then we're going to see my dad. So back to back. So I'll be gone for almost 3 weeks straight. So we may have to record it earlier than it's released. So can you be ready by tomorrow?
In 2 weeks. Okay.
We'll record it tomorrow. Perfect. Thank you, ladies. It'd probably have to be sincerely the first week in June. Well, thank you. And I can't wait to tell you about my Serbia trip. And, we can also pause and talk about other things if we want to. But I don't want to because then it'll blow it for the podcast. So never mind.
I can't wait to hear all about it. I guess I'll listen to the podcast.
Who said you wouldn't be on it? All right. Well, thank you, ladies. Have a lovely day. And I can't wait to be in studio with you soon. Look at my great studio. Did you see my dad put my neon sign up?
It's exciting.
Oh, good old Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'll see you soon.
All right. Have a good day, ladies.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.